First time ever.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that my 97 Land Cruiser failed me and had to be towed where it would no longer move forward. Now, this isn't the lean, mean, supercharged machine that I'm talking about, but my truck is how I ended up getting video of the truck that I'm going to show you. But let me give you the backstory. My truck's torque converter failed, and I had to bring it 420 miles down to Lovettsville, Virginia, in that black Ford 4Runner. It's beautiful down here. A guy that I know owns a house down here, and his brother has a shop, and he used the shop in order to install the new transmission for me. Matt's a 20-year Toyota tech, and I trust his work, so I brought it to him. The truck didn't need a new transmission, but I was told to get one just in case the torque converter somehow contaminated the transmission, and I was able to find an A343F transmission with 500 original miles. So I got it, and they put it in. Now, for those of you that have followed the channel for any length of time, you might recognize Matt, because Matt's been in several videos of mine. We've four-wheeled in the Northeast, we've four-wheeled in Moab, we've four-wheeled out west. You might remember this particular video right here, starring Matt, because it was one of the first videos where I ever did a story. I narrated and gave you the story of what we were doing. This is my secret location up in the Northeast in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And that's Matt's truck parked next to my truck. We're on a pond, and it is late October. And we did some serious wheeling up there, because you've got water up over the hood, and you've got rocks the size of the rocks in Moab, except they're not slick rock. There's no traction. It can get ugly up here quick. And Matt's vehicle is pretty pristine, as you can see. That hole. You're good. Nice and easy. Easy. Can you put your front locker on? You're good, brother. Don't stress it. You're good. And stay driver, Matty. Stay driver. You don't want to fall into that hole, because you're going to come right up on here and avoid that whole rock. Easy. Easy. You're good. You're good. And now just crawl right out. You're on solid ground. Crawl right out. Solid ground. Straighten it out. Go perfectly straight. And when you get to that tree, cut it. You made it, dude. Beautiful. So since I made that video, a lot of things have changed. They've changed with my truck, they've changed with his truck, and they've basically changed with the channel. And if you want to see what those changes are, you're going to want to sit back, relax, and check this out. So here we are. We're in Lovettsville, Virginia. Matt finishes installing my transmission. We ran into a couple of problems, but they weren't his problem. One of the people that sent me the torque converter sent me the wrong torque converter in the right box. So we had to wait several days for the new torque converter to show up, meaning we had to pull everything out, wait, and wait for parts to come in. It happens. Whatever. Now, Matt and his wife, Ashley, I've known them for several years. I met them at a rooftop tent rally years ago. And Matt said, hey, Ashley says you should stay at the house. And I said, sure, sounds good. And when I came around the corner and saw their house, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. This was like a beautiful Virginia plantation with 10 acres out back, and it was absolutely amazing. And I'm going to show you around this house. I'm going to show you around the property, but I'm also going to show you around Matt's personal vehicle, or vehicles, because Matt has graduated from just the 80 series. She's now lifted, she's taller, she's bigger, she's better. He's also added a 200 series. And he also somehow found time to add a 100 series. So Matt has basically got the trifecta going. But in this video, we're going to focus primarily on his 80. So out in Virginia, out in the country, out on the plantation or farm, this is Matt's truck. But remember, when I first met Mac back in 2018, this was his truck. Hey, what's up guys? It's Richie from JailBreak Overlander. Welcome to another episode. This week I am joined by Matt.
Matt from Stock Adventures on Instagram.
And soon on YouTube. Matt has a beautiful, what year?
95 Supercharged 80 series.
And it's beautiful. And it was very different back in those days. It was still very clean, but it was on a much milder lift. It still had king shocks. It was still supercharged, but it was on 35s. And Matt and I have gone four-wheeling together from the Northeast to the West Coast and back. And his truck always hung with my truck, no matter what. But you can't hang around with the big boys without turning your truck into a big boy. It's just a thing. Can't quantify it, can't explain it. You just can't ignore it. And Matt, out in the country, has turned his truck into a big boy. And it is no joke. I ended up spending an entire month, exactly 30 days, at Matt and Ashley's house, where I got my 80 series ready to sell and got my new truck ready to roll. And if you look around, it's very inspiring, even in the wee hours of the night, seeing the 100 series, the 200 series, the 80 series, and the unnamed truck that I'm currently building, and it's just about done. But I'll tell you what, his truck is far and away one of the cleanest, biggest, meanest, leanest trucks I've seen. Even out here on 10 acres with all the maintenance, raising a family, a fairly new house, etc., he still found time to build this thing into an absolute animal, and he did it in a very tasteful manner. The truck is just about flawless. It has a factory paint job on it still that's still beautiful, and he's managed to keep the road rash and the pinstriping to a minimum. When you look underneath this truck, it looks very similar to my 80 series. Dave Otero from Dobinson Springs hooked him up with some 4-inch heavies. Ben at Filthy Motorsports made sure the King shocks worked and were valved for his truck properly. The truck sits perfectly even when loaded down. He's done a lot of work to this, fine-tuning this over the years to get it to the point where it's at right now. For instance, the roofnest Falcon, he's had on there since 2019. And I did a walkaround video back in 2019, and it'll be linked below. And even after 3, almost 4 years, Matt still swears by this rooftop tent. He loves it. He doesn't have to run a rack with it at all. He made his own hangers, and it's attached to the roof gutters, and it works perfect. Up front, he's got a Xeon 10000S by Warn sitting on a Binks bumper. The truck sits perfect. That is the exact posture you want your 80 series to have if it's lifted. It's sitting on 37-inch Toyo tires, which he swears by and loves. I believe he's still using wheel spacers just a little bit, just to get the proper footprint that he was looking for. 4x4 Labs is always on the rear of any serious 80 series, and Matt's truck is no exception whatsoever at all. Seeing how I've already covered this truck in another walk-around video, I'm not going to cover absolutely everything. He's got Rocky Road sliders on the side protecting his door jambs. And he also has retrofitted a set of rigid lights up top and wired them himself, and they are bright as daylight and have a really nice amber after effect, much like the Baja designs I just installed on another vehicle. He did the headlights himself. It's a modification that many people have tried and failed at, but Matt actually nailed it, so it looks really nice. He's got the Borla catback system, which is working out really well on his truck. Through years of trial and error and years of experience, he's managed to whittle down all the extra weight that he doesn't need while still carrying everything that he does need. Matt's been on cross-country adventures numerous times, and he knows the ropes. It's a beautiful, beautiful setup, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of 80 series. Under the hood is very similar to under the hood of my truck. He's got the TRD Supercharger sitting there. He's got a North Star 100 amp hour auxiliary battery that runs off of his solar and supplies him with all the power that he possibly needs. He's got the land tank mass airflow sensor that's combined with the Subaru WRX injectors that really take advantage of the fact that the truck is supercharged. It took him a while to dial it in, but once he did, he seems to be pretty happy with it. It's been an ongoing experiment. He still sticks with the Toyota tried and true starter battery, as most do. I've covered this particular 80 series many times over the last 5 years, and the reason being is Matt absolutely adores this truck. He loves this truck like I loved my truck, and I know people are going, well, then why'd you sell it? It had nothing to do with the truck. It had to do with me. I'm 54 years old. I've spent 7 years in that truck all over the United States. It was just time for something different. We don't live in the same world we did anymore, and 8 miles to the gallon just wasn't cutting it anymore. You see what I'm saying? It breaks my heart to let go of my truck, but I had to. At any rate, I've shown you enough of the outside. Now let's take a look at what makes this truck so capable. Underneath this truck is a solid axle, king shocks, HUD Expo skid plates, superior engineering front differential protector, king shocks. If I didn't already mention that, I'll mention it again. All sitting on top of E-lockers and 37-inch Toyo tires. This truck can roll with the best of them. It's no joke. Underneath this truck, he's got a set of Delta radius arms, making sure that his pinion angle is exactly accurate, and it is. He's got a MagnaFlow down tube on it that runs into a Borla exhaust system that has easily outlasted 2 custom exhaust systems I've had built piece by piece for my truck, totaling $6,000. The Borla setup has lasted him and worked out really well. He's got backup lights. He's got fog lights on the front. He's got the light strip on the front. And these are all no-name eBay things that have worked out well for him. Factor 55, the custom headlights, fender flares, and that beautiful Binks bumper. And this truck isn't a show truck. It is kind of a show truck, but it still goes. I've had this truck follow me through the toughest trails in Moab and make it no problem. And in this particular video, the truck's only on a 3-inch lift with 35s, and it's still following me, no issue whatsoever at all. It's an amazing truck because it's an 80 series. If you know how to drive them, you can take them absolutely anywhere, and they'll get you home every time. Unless your torque converter finally fails after 300,000 miles. It happens. So to wrap this up, the interior of the truck is as clean as any 80 series you're going to see for the most part. Matt's gone through a lot of attention to detail to keep everything inside functional and clean. He puts a lot of pride in this particular vehicle, which is the reason that I brought my truck 450 miles for him to personally work on it. If I couldn't do the work, I wanted to have him do it, and that's exactly what I did. And then I proceeded to build a vehicle in his driveway, right where you see my truck sitting in the background. Inside Mac's truck, you'll see a lot of stuff from Blue Ridge Overland gear because they make a lot of stuff that really works well in an Overland truck. In the rear, I believe he just got his hands on a Delta Vehicle Systems shelving system for the rear. I could see off-grid Trek solar panels right there, a little bit of Wits End, and then of course Blue Ridge Overland gear to cap everything off rather nicely. The reason I've covered this truck so many times over the years is because the truck has changed enough to warrant a new video. And again, unlike most trucks, this truck actually sees the trails. This truck actually goes through water. This truck is actually taking a trail while driving around a Jeep that just flipped over trying to take the trail. That's a thing. That happened. Matt's stuck with the ARB single. He's never had any issues with it apparently, which works out really well. That's sitting on top of the Dobinson drawer system and the ARB fridge. And everything works out really well. Unlike my truck, this is not his daily driver, so it's spared many, many tens of thousands of miles. My truck did not see that. My truck saw the road and the trails. Freshly rebuilt it and then sold it. But that's a story for another day. It's a really clean truck. Really nice setup. And I believe this is from... the name escapes me. It's a custom shop up in Maine, and they make really nice stuff, but they have a really long wait time. But it's a very tidy little system. Plenty of room in there to store pretty much everything. So I've prattled on long enough. I've covered pretty much everything. If you want to see the original walk around video, I'll post that below. If you want to see this truck off-roading, I'll post that below. If you want to follow Matt Ailstock on Instagram, I'll post that below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Leave a comment, and I will return the favor. I am out.